Guys, welcome to episode 56 of Mark Anthony's Music Picks. I just got a new MacBook Air, so this is my first video using this to record instead of my phone, so hopefully everything turns out well here with audio and visually. If you guys notice anything's different between this and my previous episodes, please give me a little bit of feedback and let me know if the levels are off or anything like that, but I'm going to do my best to quality control it for you. Today I want to talk about one of my original club vocal remix heroes from the New York and New Jersey scene from the early 2000s. He was featured and I feel like got his main break on those Louis DeVito NYC Underground CDs that came out in 1999 and 2000. There was the Volume 1 and 2, which really kind of stayed under the radar, and then if you remember, Louis DeVito Part 3, the one with the purple cover, was the one that totally blew up. But on the first CD, there were entries from somebody named Johnny Vicious, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know, it sounds like a cool DJ producer name. Johnny Vicious is from South Jersey. He played mostly in the Philadelphia, New York, and New Jersey scene. He was a record store owner. I think the record store that he owned around the year 2000 was called Beyond Bass. So he was a DJ, a competent DJ. He was immersed in the local music scene, you know, hanging out at the record shop. From people that I've talked to, everybody said that he was really friendly and somebody that was very personable. You could just kind of walk up on him and start talking to him. And, you know, I never met him, but he seems like a really interesting cat. I noticed that, you know, if you look at his artist photos from back in the day, he had this almost like punk, or not punk rock, but just like a classic like rock and roll kind of haircut. So when I thought of, you know, somebody named Johnny Vicious, and then I actually saw the pictures, I was like, oh, he doesn't look like the pictures. But, you know, he was absolutely a musical mastermind back in the day. And he was known particularly for these huge soaring remixes that he used to do, where it was tons of reverb, big synths layered one on top of another, and he really had a clean sound. Most of the records that I'm going to talk about today are in a very short window of time. He produced, I think, from the early 90s up until maybe 2005 for the most part, but where he really like went bonkers with his career was 97 to, I would say, like 2000, 2001. The records that I'm going to feature in this episode are particularly from 1997 to 1999, and I have 6 titles that I'm going to go through for you to kind of highlight some of my favorite records of his. Now, there's enough content in this man's catalog to definitely do another episode, so I might circle back and get some of the ones that I missed here. So if you feel like your favorite one didn't make the cut, don't get too offended. I understand that there's some other bombs in here, but you know, for the sake of keeping my episodes under 20 minutes, I try to cap it at 5 or 6 records. So the first one that I'm going to cover for you here is this Duncan Sheik remix. Now, if you guys remember, I interviewed somebody named Ryan Bauer from New York and New Jersey on my From the Booth series. I think he was interview number 2. And he put me onto this. I was in the scene around, or, you know, a couple years after this, and I never heard Duncan Sheik's Reasons for Living remix out. It kind of just went under the radar, but it's one of my favorite Johnny Vicious remixes of all time. The vocal is really, it's a male vocal, and it's a good male vocal, which is rare. You know, if you think about it, it's tough to find a good male vocalist in the club scene. So I think the epicness and the emotion that's behind the vocal here is just really classy. And, you know, for 1997, this record still sounds really clean, really great, really well produced. And I hope you guys enjoy this sample.
Everyone's looking, everyone hides, everyone's telling, but everyone lies. We're changing the subject. We're turning away from the heart of it all. You say you are happy, do you think this is fun? But it's only a firefly to the light of the sun. You say this is living, you feel so alive. Well, you know everything dies. Even my wonder, even my fear only amount to a couple of tears. There is a rhythm, it's near and it's far, close to the heart.
Now moving up to 1998, Veronica was one of the female vocalists during this era that was, putting out albums. So Amber, Raquel, Veronica, Kim Sazi, etc., etc. She was on that list of female vocalists that would pair up with these popular remixers that would clubify, the songs they wrote and make a club hit out of it. Johnny Vicious was in the same realm as Victor Calderone back in the day used to make vocal remixes. Jonathan Peters, Hex Hector, Matt Quayle. That's all the ones I can think of off the top of my head, and there's probably a few more that are pretty prolific that I'm missing. But they were all competing to remix these epic vocals into and make a monster out of it and make the track into a hit. And here Veronica did her "Let Me Go, Release Me." The original came out on her album in 1997, and Johnny came in with his huge synths and just leveled it, man. This is an absolute monster track, and not too long after that, on remixing a track from Veronica's same album, he does "Someone to Hold." Now, "Someone to Hold" probably is the most popular out of the two Veronica ones that I just mentioned here, and I like the mix show edit. It's 10 minutes and 32 seconds long, and the synths in that are really just super satisfying, and the way that they ascend and climb, it's just really satisfying and really hooky. And I think, if you look on the classics forums and classics groups that are on Facebook, a lot of times you'll see somebody posting this like, hey, remember this, because it was just one of those crazy classics that just stuck. And for people that were in that New Jersey going to the beach club scene, the clubs that were along the Jersey coastline and crossing the tunnel to go into the bridge into Manhattan, these were the types of vocals that were being dropped in, and they were just huge. Also in 1998, Johnny Vicious pairs up with an artist or a vocalist named Lula. Now, you guys remember Lula. Lula was known for these crazy, bizarre dance floor narrations where she would describe some scene or paint a picture for you on the dance floor, and sometimes it was really interesting. I always gave Lula 10 points for creativity. There were a couple of other crazy tracks that Lula did, like "Trip to Uranus" and I think she might have been in Sanctuary too. I'm not sure. Maybe not Sanctuary, but always just something really interesting with Lula, and you never knew what you were gonna get, and it kind of set this dark, seedy, undergroundy vibe, and it was a really nice pairing there. Ecstasy, Take Your Shirts Off was on that original Louis DeVito CD, and it was like one of those songs that was just a staple in the Philadelphia scene. Now, like when I went out to the Philly clubs like Shampoo and Egypt, you were likely to hear this. It was just a track that was a given during a peak hour set.
Take your shirts off now. I want to see M.A.M.P. Oh yes, they're all sweaty. And they're all smooth because they're all shaved. I love that, yes. Take your shirts off. But not everybody. Some people shouldn't take their shirts off, that's what I think. Some people leave their shirts on, please. Some of you take your pants off too. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take your shirts off now.
And now, moving up to, I think this one's 1999, Johnny Vicious did a remix of Brainbug's Rain. Rain was like a follow-up to Brainbug's Nightmare, which came out in 1997. Nightmare was kind of like a hard trancey track. And Rain was also super epic. And speaking of epic, the way that the synths roll in Johnny Vicious's main mix of this Vicious Rain remix was like the main mix, like the A1. The way that the synth just keeps ascending and getting higher and higher and higher, it was really emblematic of the type of productions that were hitting New York. This is also featured on the Jonathan Peters Sound Factory Last Dance Classics CD, and rightfully so. This was something that a lot of people held in very high regard. Like, I remember on the forums, a lot of people would say, like, you know, Rain was my favorite track of all time. Like, if there was a thread about, hey, what's your favorite track of all time? If you just had one you had to listen to for the rest of your life, what would you pick? And a few people weighed in on this, so don't underestimate Rain. And finally, my last pick for today is Johnny Vicious' remix of Moments, a huge vocal. Now, Moments is based on the Art of Noise track called Moments in Love, and it came out all the way back in 1985. And it was a nice down-tempo, kind of sexy song that was, I think, described the feeling of falling in love. I think that's what that song was. And, you know, Johnny Vicious came in and did this, you know, clubbed up remix of it. And I think Mindy Kaye redid the vocal. So the vocal was redone, but you can still hear original ingredients from the 1985 hit on this. And my pick in particular is the Noisemaker 99 remix. That's the one that I always liked, but I also feel like the one that's on the A side, like the more main mix, also has a little bit different synth elements, a little bit more darkness to it. So I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I tended to go with the Noisemaker 99 if I was playing this record. That's all I have for today, guys. Johnny, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for those tunes that, for me, really captured my early 20s. And whenever I listen to these records, I think back to all the great club nights that I had out with my friends and listening to the Louis DeVito CDs in the parking lot outside the club, getting ready to go in and getting hype. It was just this whole thing, and your songs really made it special. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Take care. Peace.